In the digital age, privacy has become a precious and increasingly elusive commodity. We leave digital footprints with every click, every search, and every interaction online. While the internet has undoubtedly connected us in unprecedented ways, it has also opened up new avenues for surveillance, often operating in the shadows without our knowledge or consent. This is the story of one such surveillance program, PRISM, unveiled in 2013 by former NSA contractor Edward Snowden. PRISM sent shockwaves across the globe. It exposed the extent to which government agencies, particularly the United States National Security Agency, were collecting vast amounts of personal data from ordinary citizens. This revelation sparked outrage and ignited a fierce debate about the delicate balance between national security and individual privacy rights. PRISM was not just a breach of trust. It was a stark reminder that in the digital age, the boundaries between our public and private lives are becoming increasingly blurred. It forced us to confront an unsettling question. In a world where our every move can be tracked, monitored, and analyzed, what does it truly mean to be free? Before the digital age, privacy had a certain physicality. Our homes, letters, and belongings afforded us privacy. But the internet changed that. Information flows freely and can be intercepted easily. Our data is now a valuable commodity, bought, sold, and traded to target us with ads. Governments collect it with little transparency. PRISM showed how surveillance exploits internet vulnerabilities. This mass data collection erodes trust and chills free speech. It creates a climate of fear and suspicion. Knowing we're watched, we express ourselves less freely. PRISM is a cautionary tale about safeguarding privacy. We need greater transparency and accountability. It's about the future of freedom in a tech-driven world. The story of PRISM begins in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks. The attacks sent shockwaves through the United States, exposing vulnerabilities that few had anticipated. In the wake of this tragedy, the government, driven by a desire to prevent future attacks, sought new ways to gather intelligence and identify potential threats. It was in this climate of fear and uncertainty that PRISM was born. The Bush administration, arguing that traditional intelligence gathering methods were inadequate in the digital age, pushed for expanded surveillance powers. They argued that terrorists were using the internet to communicate and plan attacks, and that the government needed new tools to monitor these activities. This argument resonated with a public still reeling from the trauma of 9/11. And in 2001, Congress passed the Patriot Act, a sweeping piece of legislation that, among other things, significantly expanded the government's surveillance authority. The Patriot Act, however, was just the beginning. In the years that followed, the NSA, operating largely in secret, began developing sophisticated surveillance programs designed to collect and analyze vast amounts of data. One of these programs, codenamed PRISM, would eventually become synonymous with government overreach and the erosion of privacy in the digital age. What began as a well-intentioned, albeit controversial effort to prevent terrorism would morph into a sprawling surveillance apparatus with the potential to monitor the communications of millions of people worldwide. PRISM was shrouded in secrecy from its inception. Its very existence was unknown to the public, and even many lawmakers were kept in the dark about the program's true scope. The NSA, operating under a veil of secrecy, argued that this secrecy was essential to protect national security. To reveal the program's inner workings, they claimed, would be to tip off adversaries and undermine their ability to gather intelligence. The program relied on a legal framework that was both complex and opaque. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, passed in 1978, had originally been created to regulate the collection of foreign intelligence within the United States. However, the Patriot Act and subsequent amendments to FISA significantly expanded the government's surveillance powers, allowing for the collection of data from U.S. citizens without a warrant in certain circumstances. PRISM took advantage of these expanded powers, operating in a legal gray area that allowed it to collect vast amounts of data with minimal oversight. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, tasked with overseeing government surveillance requests, was criticized for being little more than a rubber stamp for the NSA. The court, which operates in secret and hears arguments only from the government, approved the vast majority of surveillance requests made by the NSA. This lack of judicial oversight, coupled with the program's extreme secrecy, created an environment ripe for abuse. Silicon Valley's Faustian bargain, data for access. Central to PRISM's success was the cooperation of major internet companies. Companies like Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and Yahoo provided the NSA with access to their users' data. This collaboration raised serious questions about user privacy. Were they willing participants or coerced into cooperating? The relationship was complex and often contradictory. Companies publicly touted their commitment to user privacy, yet they faced immense pressure to cooperate with intelligence efforts. Casting a wide net, the scope of PRISM's data collection. Imagine a fishing net cast wide into the vast ocean of digital information. That was PRISM. It wasn't about targeting individuals with surgical precision. It was about gathering as much data as possible, from as many sources as possible. The types of data collected under PRISM were staggering in their scope. Even the content of our private messages, all of this and more was fair game. PRISM represented a level of surveillance that was both breathtaking and chilling. Beyond emails and chats, the intimate details PRISM captured. PRISM went beyond emails and chat logs. The NSA accessed file transfers, compromising documents shared online. Even personal photos on cloud storage were accessible to the NSA. Tracking movements and contacts was another troubling aspect. Metadata analysis allowed the NSA to build detailed profiles. Critics argued this data collection went beyond national security. The chilling effect on free speech and privacy was profound. The data dragnet, innocent bystanders caught in the crosshairs. PRISM's indiscriminate nature was disturbing. It wasn't just targeting criminals. It collected massive data, ignoring innocent individuals' privacy. Critics argued this approach caused more harm than good. Imagine a small town under constant surveillance. Innocent people would be subjected to intrusive surveillance. This was analogous to PRISM's wide net approach. It created fear and suspicion, eroding trust in government. In a democracy, trust is essential. The outcry begins. PRISM ignites a firestorm of controversy. When news of PRISM broke, it wasn't just privacy advocates and civil libertarians who were outraged. The revelations sent shockwaves through all levels of society, sparking a national and indeed international conversation about the proper role of government in the digital age. Suddenly, the shadowy world of government surveillance, something that had once seemed like the stuff of spy novels, had become all too real. People were angry. They felt betrayed by their government, by the tech companies they had come to rely on, and by the very idea that their digital lives were not their own. Protests erupted in cities across the globe, with people from all walks of life demanding greater transparency and accountability from their leaders. The message was clear: we will not be monitored. We will not be spied on. We demand our privacy back. The media, to its credit, gave significant coverage to the PRISM revelations and their aftermath. Newspapers published scathing editorials, television news programs devoted hours to the topic, and online forums buzzed with discussion and debate. The story had captured the public imagination, forcing people to confront uncomfortable questions about the trade-offs between security and freedom in an age of terrorism. Mass surveillance or national security, the heated debate over PRISM. The debate over PRISM was fierce and polarized. On one side were those who argued that the program was a necessary evil, a vital tool in the fight against terrorism. They pointed to the very real threat posed by groups like Al-Qaeda, arguing that the government needed broad surveillance powers to prevent future attacks. They maintained that PRISM had indeed disrupted terrorist plots and saved lives, even if the details of those successes remained classified. On the other side of the debate were those who viewed PRISM as a gross overreach of government power, a violation of fundamental privacy rights, and a dangerous step towards an Orwellian surveillance state. They argued that the program was ineffective, that it swept up vast amounts of data from innocent people, and that it chilled free speech and dissent. They pointed to the lack of transparency and oversight surrounding the program, arguing that such secrecy was incompatible with democratic values. The debate over PRISM was not just about the specifics of one surveillance program. It was about fundamental questions of liberty, security, and the role of government in a free society. It was a debate about the kind of world we wanted to live in, one where security trumps all other concerns, or one where individual rights and freedoms are fiercely protected, even in the face of perceived threats. One of the most significant casualties of the PRISM scandal was trust. The revelations deeply damaged the relationship between citizens and their government, creating a sense of betrayal and suspicion. Beyond privacy, PRISM raised serious questions about the long-term impact of mass surveillance on a free and open society. When people know they're being watched, they're less likely to speak their minds freely or engage in activities that might be misconstrued. The legal underpinnings of PRISM were complex and often shrouded in secrecy. At the heart of it all was the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, a law passed in 1978 to regulate electronic surveillance for foreign intelligence purposes. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, or FISC, was designed to review government requests for surveillance warrants. Critics argued that the court, operating in secrecy, had become a rubber stamp, approving the vast majority of surveillance requests. The legal justifications for PRISM rested on a dangerous precedent, the idea that in the name of national security, the government could amass vast amounts of data on its own citizens. Critics argued that this was a slippery slope, difficult to roll back once such powers were granted. As the public grappled with PRISM, a critical question lingered. How could such a program be considered legal? The answer lay in the shadowy world of legal interpretations and secret memos, a world inhabited by the Office of Legal Counsel, or OLC. In the aftermath of PRISM, the Electronic Privacy Information Center, or EPIC, emerged as a leading voice demanding transparency. Using the Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA, EPIC filed a request with the Office of Legal Counsel, demanding access to the legal opinions and memos that had justified PRISM. EPIC's FOIA lawsuit against the Department of Justice became a protracted legal battle, highlighting the challenges of holding the government accountable. The case wound its way through the courts, with EPIC facing numerous setbacks and delays. The unveiling of PRISM was a watershed moment in the digital age. It shattered the illusion of privacy in the online world and forced a long overdue reckoning with the surveillance state. While PRISM may be a thing of the past, the fight to safeguard privacy in the digital age is far from over. The technologies of surveillance continue to evolve at a rapid pace, often outstripping the ability of laws and regulations to keep up. The PRISM revelations forced us to confront a fundamental question: how do we balance the need for security with the right to privacy in the digital age? It's about recognizing that true security cannot exist without freedom, and that sacrificing liberty in the name of security ultimately makes us less safe, not more.